This is the Norris Group's Real Estate Investor Radio Show, the award-winning show dedicated to thought leaders shaping the real estate industry and local experts revealing their insider tips to succeed in an ever-changing real estate market. Hosted by author, investor, and hard money lender, Bruce Norris.
Hi, thank you for joining us. My name is Bruce Norris, and today our special guest is Dyches Boddiford. Dyches is one of the most recognized and trusted names in our industry. I went through college, got a degree in physics and computer science in the early 70s. 1980s began to purchase properties, his own home first. By mid-80s, he also began to purchase notes. In the early 90s, he retired from working for other companies to work on his own. He created loans for mobile homes and even bought and flipped them, carried the financing. In early 90s, he began teaching about the subjects he's most well known for, holding properties in trusts and corporations and LLCs. And Dyches, we're very excited to have you on our show today.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. I'm glad to be here.
Your website, by the way, is assets101.com. So I just wanted to mention that. You are actively teaching people, and you and I had a conversation probably within 30 days on you helping direct me on how to put my assets in a safe place. So I appreciate that.
Quite welcome.
A little bit about your background as a real estate investor. What state were you mostly active in as far as that goes, all the way back to the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, I've been primarily active in Georgia. That's where I started out, and I'm a big believer, having spent almost 40 years doing real estate. I'm a big believer in working in your own backyard, where you can keep an eye on the market, you can keep an eye on the property, you can keep an eye on tenants, and you know what the laws are in that area as well. So I did a lot in Georgia, but I also have done a good bit along the coast of South Carolina, some resort areas, and some inland counties, and then also in North Carolina, I have done some business as well. So I always find that the deals that I do outside of my backyard are the hardest ones to deal with, and the ones that tend to create problems for you when you don't have time to deal with them.
Are you usually dealing with partners at that point, or on your own?
Well, I have had partners over the years, and you can have good partners, you can have poor partners. And not everybody has the same business acumen nor expectations in an investment. So, yes, I have had partners over the years, but I've worked out of most partnership situations as my partners wanted to retire or wanted to go different directions. So I'm not against partnering. It's just that you eventually should be working toward being your own partner.
Yeah, anytime you get away from your area, you do have to rely on relationships, and it's that
is true.
It's hard.
And the only reason I was along the coast of South Carolina because there was a real estate agent that was also a real property investor that I partnered with. So most of those deals that I did along there were with him.
Okay. How did you learn the house buying business?
Well, I kept looking around to decide what I wanted to get into, either as a career or as a investment. And I kept coming back to real estate with its ability to incorporate sweat equity, along with the ability to get leverage financing, both from sellers or from institutions. And so I just saw the real estate as the way to go while I was still working a full-time job. And, I wish I'd had gone out full-time doing the real estate probably 10 years earlier than I did, because I spent about 10 more years in the working environment, working for a company and all, before I really started just working for myself with the investments.
I'm really curious about this question. Where you were investing, did prices radically change from the early 70s to, say, 1980? Do you recall?
Yeah, well, I remember I started in around 1980. I started in the high interest rate environment.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, one of the houses I bought, one of my first houses I bought, I got some financing from a third party, a hard money investor, and it was 25% annual rate on it. Fortunately, it was a low price house, under $10,000, and I was able to pay it off within a couple of years from my salary and from the rents that were coming in on the property. Another property I bought was a VA property. I believe I'd have to go back and get the files out, but I believe I was paying 9% interest on that VA loan, which is pretty hefty.
Yeah.
But it worked out over time, and the values, of course, went up with the inflationary market that we had at that point in time. So yeah, I saw a lot of difference in prices. Sure.
Yeah, that's why I kind of asked the question. Even from the 70s to 80 was where we were in California. I was lucky enough to own just a couple of houses. One is a occupant resident and a couple of rentals. But in this 10-year period, and actually in a 6-year period in California, 74 to 80 prices tripled in California, and that got my attention as far as wealth building and equity. And that was kind of what I was going to ask you. For a California investor, there's a lot of emphasis on where prices are going to go as opposed to I'll hold this forever and it'll pay itself off. So where you typically invest, are you really looking to have your price increase be your dominant gain, or not so much?
Well, as you're aware, the California is the odd duck out there. The 59 or the 50 states, 49 of those states, you really want to be concerned about cash flow and about paying off any debt that's on the property, and hopefully you'll get some increase, which might just stay ahead of inflation, but it will grow the value of your assets. In California, you've got such a crazy market there that people are, in many cases, forced to play the appreciation game, either in forced appreciation, buying and fixing up and reselling, or buying and letting the market take them up. But they can't justify the prices strictly on the rents that are coming in. It would be very difficult to pay off the debt on a property strictly from the rents that you can get in California.
Yeah, that's right. What's interesting is you and I kind of started in a very similar time frame, and in California, you know, I could buy a fourplex, say that was a HUD-owned fourplex for $60,000, and I could resell it for 120 or 130. Naturally, the fourplex is in a rough area. Would have been a challenge to keep rented and not much fun to own it. So I was always tempted to sell it and cash in the check. Of course, those fourplexes went from 130 to $600,000 actually.
Right.
Which kind of hurt.
I know a good number of people on the coast where you are that they sold a few of their properties early on, but they held on to other properties, and now properties they bought for $50,000 or $60,000 back in the time frame you're talking about are pushing $800,000 to $1 million in value, and some well over that, especially the ones that are closer to the coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some good appreciation that they did well with.
So from where you were sitting at the time, you really looked at real estate more as an asset to pay off and hold for quite a long time. Was that your...
Right. My thrust, and still the way that I talk to my daughter's in real estate now, and other people, students that I have, I talk to them about the best deal that they can get is being able to get 1% of the value of the property in rents coming in each month. Now, the market's high right now, and you can't get quite 1%, but you can still find properties that are in the 0.7 to 0.8% of the value as rents coming in. The idea being that you want the property as much as possible to stand on its own and paying itself off. So, for instance, if I bought a property for $100,000 and I had a 30-year mortgage of $100,000 on the property, and then I was able to use the rents coming in to pay off that $100,000 mortgage, and for some reason, at the end of 30 years, I was only able to sell that property for $100,000. Did I make any money on it? Well, the answer is yes, because there's stored value from those rent that were paid over the years that were used to pay back the financing that was on the property. And at the end of the 30 years, I was able to sell the property, and I put that $100,000 in my pocket.
Now you're still active as a real estate investor?
I am not as active as I used to be. I've slowed down a little bit. I do mainly hard money lending over the last 15 or so years.
Okay.
My daughter has got into real estate, and one thing I told her when she first got out of college, and she said, I'd like to try this for a while. I said, now, understand, you're not taking over my properties. What you're doing is building your own portfolio, because when somebody calls you in the middle of the night with a clogged toilet, you don't turn around and call me. You figured out how you solve the problem yourself. And she's done rather well with a nice little portfolio of properties, and she's also learned how to do some of the other things like flipping properties and lending. She does some wrap loans with me, which means that she handles all the due diligence up front, the closing and collections, and if for some reason there's a default, which we don't have many of those, her responsibility would be to take over the property, finish completing the rehab on it, and sell it, so that I, as the first mortgage lender, would get fully paid at the rate that I was supposed to get paid with the other borrower, but she then makes all the profit.
Okay. Now, this is Dorsey we're talking about, correct?
That's correct.
And now she got a degree in building construction.
She did, from Georgia Tech,
okay,
which is my alma mater as well. And what I had asked her to do when she first started talking about being in real estate, I said, now you get your degree, you go out and work for these big companies, and you work for at least 3 to 5 years, and then we'll talk about you getting into your own portfolio of houses. What I wanted her to do was to find out why she didn't want to work for somebody else. And putting her in that environment where she was working for somebody else would have certainly done that. But she talked me into, it was 2011, she talked me into letting her try to do the real estate right out of college, which that doesn't work for a lot of people. But for her, it worked out well because she was coming into the marketplace after the big recession.
Yes.
And so she was able to pick up houses and fix them up and flip them and put money into her pocket and build a chest, a war chest that she could use then to start investing in property. She tells me today, she said just shortly ago that she wished she held on all of the properties that she flipped over the last 5 or 6 years. And I keep telling her she wouldn't be in the same position she is now because that money she needed to put in the bank to build toward the reserves and the down payments that she needed for the rental properties.
Yeah, you have to have, what's nice about having a skill of flipping is you're always buying something wholesale, and that can start your rental numbers out at a very advantageous number that may not otherwise occur too.
Exactly.
Do you?
That's always the best approach.
Do you find that she is sourcing properties in different ways than you ever did?
Oh, absolutely. Most investors are. You and I would, scour the for sale ads in the paper. We'd drive around looking for FSBOs. We would, try to find out what properties that were listed with an agent or the listing is going by the wayside. And she gets a whole report every morning when she gets up on her computer about what's been listed on the MLS and also in other areas from some of these other websites that she deals with. Now, she rarely buys from those sites without going out and actually, determining that the property is what she thinks it is, and getting face to face with the owner or the agent that is selling the property. So yeah, they're totally, I shouldn't say totally different, but quite a bit different than when you and I were coming along.
What's interesting is the business can change a lot too. Like what you said, when she was involved in, say, 2011, you said? I mean,
Yes.
the dominant way to buy properties for probably the next 5 to 6 years was going to be an REO or a short sale. Well, that's not always true, and it's not true today.
That's true. That's true, because she got very proficient with the HUD website and with some of the auction sites in buying. And of course, you know, still like the old days when you and I were coming along, she did go to the foreclosure sales, and she picked up several properties that way as well.
Okay. Does she?
So
Now, it's when I started, it was like 1980, 81, and for 10 years, I didn't even deal with the MLS. I dealt with running an ad in the paper and bought for about 10 years directly from people, and my ad would generate 50, 60 phone calls a month, and it was very simple. And then we had a bunch of REOs start in 1990, and I went from being a real estate buyer to being like a therapy consultant for people that were upside down. But then I found the equity was in the bank-owned stuff. It would come out in the MLS and it would be on sale. So it's just interesting. She's already learning that she's got to figure out multiple ways to buy, because sometimes it'll be thick with REOs and short sales, and sometimes it won't be at all.
That's right. That's right. She has not seen a recession while she's been doing her own investing on her own. But she's waiting for it, because she says, I know what to do now. I'm going to pick up as much as I can when the prices drop.
Yeah.
I've told her it's not going to probably drop as much as it did in 2009 and 10, but it's still going to drop some, and that gives you a little bit of a lead on paying off the property as time goes by.
I'm just curious. You've been around the industry for a long time. What are a couple of your favorite teachers for real estate investing?
Well, unfortunately, Jack Miller is no longer with us. He passed 10 years ago in September. Jack was a interesting guy. He was a lot of fun to listen to, and I really expanded my horizons when I first listened to him. And then, of course, Pete Fortunato, who's still a good friend of mine, and we teach some courses together as well. Pete's down in the Tampa area, and he's very technically oriented. He's a lot of fun to listen to, and a lot of fun to work with as well. And then Jimmy Napier, who has had some health issues and is not out there as much as he was. That's where I learned discount notes and mortgages. Yeah,
those are the names, John Shaw. Everybody, it's just a really good group of people out there. I had the chance to teach one time with Pete, maybe about a year ago. There was a Florida club asked me to come speak there, and I said, teach all day on a Saturday. I said, I'll tell you what, if you can talk Pete into teaching half of it, I'll do the other half. And they got him to do that. So that was kind of fun, because I had never heard him. Good. I had never heard him teach, and I always wanted to do that. So we kind of split some time on a Saturday, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, Pete and I have been teaching the wealth building IRA class for this will be our 20th year coming up next year. And it's always fun to listen to his stories and how he approached a property seller. And, you get the phrase in your mind, why would you sell a nice house like this? I mean, that's what he always says to sellers. And it's interesting what comes out of just, expressing that to a seller. They respond very well to it.
Yeah, and what's great about Pete's model is that one of the things that I found out is he's bought at least on one occasion, not just a couple of properties from the same people, but a couple of dozen, which really tells you that you're treating people correctly for that to occur.
Right. And the interesting part is he didn't buy all those properties at one time. It was over quite a few years. He's been in this business about 50-something years now. And he's bought from the same families, multiple properties over that period of time.
Yeah, that's when you know you're doing something right, and I appreciate that. And as a matter of fact, we honored Pete and John with the Roney Award for that very reason, because of their reputation and kind of raising the bar for our industry. And we try to keep that a surprise when we can. Jack Fullerton didn't know he was getting it, or did he?
No,
he's the only one that didn't know.
Yeah.
But of course you know. But that's why we're going to do that, because your reputation is just great. And in an industry where it's full of people that aren't teaching for the right reasons, it's just nice that you've done that all your career.
Appreciate that, and you set that up as a charitable event, which I think is a great thing to do. It speaks highly of your ethics and your way of looking at things, because we all need to think about what legacy are we leaving behind, and that is a great one that you guys are doing.
I appreciate that. Well, I hope your daughter can join you. Actually, I don't know if you can, but she's certainly welcome to if you can.
Well, I appreciate it, and she has already voiced a desire to go, so a good chance she'll be there.
Okay, that's great. We're going to get to the asset protection on the second show. So I just wanted to kind of wrap up the last few minutes as far as the discount note buying. I'm real familiar with the hard money and originating it, and that seems to me so much safer. But you're pretty familiar with buying existing notes. So tell me a little bit of how you protect yourself doing that.
Well, the way I look at it, making a loan or buying a loan are just two sides of the same coin. That if you buy a loan at a good discount and you do your due diligence, as you certainly should, it puts you in an excellent situation with that property. And sometimes I'll do both. For instance, a couple of years ago, I had a fellow from California, actually, that wanted to refinance some duplexes he had in Atlanta. And I got the call, and I looked at the numbers, and I said, yeah, we can do this. He was willing to pay what we were requiring. And I said, who's got the financing now? And he told me who the financing was with, and I knew the person. So after I got off the phone with the potential borrower, I called up the note holder, and I said, I understand you have a note on such and such a property, and I might be interested in buying it. And he said, well, yeah, I got a note on it, and it's supposed to pay off in a few months. And I really do need the money because I got another deal that is coming up real quick. I said, if it's paying off in a few months, it's probably not going to be worth it to me to hold on to it for a long period of time, but I can't. So, what kind of discount would you give me? Well, we're talking about a couple $100,000 loan. I only got a $10,000 discount. But then by getting the $10,000 discount, I funded the new borrower and paid myself the extra $10,000 because that's what he would have paid off the old lender for.
Right.
And so not only did I make a hard money loan, I was able to get a return on the discounted paper that I had picked up.
Okay. I noticed that you teach the hard money loan business. Do you encourage people with money? Because I read in the description of the course for players only, not brokers, which I completely understand. But when you're teaching someone, do you teach them to go out and find their own borrowers, or do you teach them how to find the right broker?
Yeah, no, I teach them that they need to look at individual borrowers as potential clients, and also to talk with local loan brokers, because sometimes the loan brokers that are dealing with conventional financing and so forth run across situations where a person needs to get rid of an owner carryback financing note and mortgage that he has, or he's got a property that needs some fix up before a conventional lender would actually loan it. So he might need a bridge loan. So, I'd like to hit as many opportunities as possible. So I deal with the individual bars, and I deal with brokers as well.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, we had a lot of brokers, and that was really the primary way to get loans. As time has changed and the loan industry has changed, those independent brokers are not as, not on every corner like they used to be.
Yeah. Well, I think we will need to end the segment. We'll start up again. Dyches Boddiford's been with us today and will join us on the next segment. Dyches, thank you for joining us.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under California DRE License 012-19911, Florida Mortgage Lender License 1577, and NMLS License 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.
For more information on hard money loans and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For information on passive investing with trust deeds, visit tngtrustdeeds.com.